Our guest on TKTV for this edition is Nthabiseng Dubazana, who's the managing director of Dubazana Attorneys. She's also a legal expert and analyst. She's on TV, she's on radio, analyzing legal issues that are quite complicated. So we talked to her about the challenges of owning a legal firm, how to run it, and what does it take to get to that particular level. So if you are a law student, this is probably one episode you need not miss. But if you are considering pursuing legal fraternity, perhaps this is also your opportunity to take some lessons out of it. Well, Nthabi, let's start with the legal fraternity. I mean, what attracted you to studying law and practicing as a lawyer?
Sure. I think if you speak to different people, you'll get different answers. My mom says I've always wanted to be a lawyer since I was watching Law and Order when I was about 6 or so years old. But for me, I remember the one movie that made me go like, I think this is the profession I want to be in. I was watching The Devil's Advocate. Al Pacino and Mr. Matrix himself, Keanu Reeves. And for me, it was just fascinating, the manner in which the facts would be changed up. I know it was fiction, but for me, in my head, it was just something else. And I'm like, that is what I wanted to do. And then fast forward a few years later in law school, I think it was first year, when who's that guy? What's his name? The guy that
Al Pacino.
No. The drug lord who had a hangar full of cars. And he only died of old age. He was one of the most notorious gangsters in America back then. His lawyer.
Is it Al Capone?
Al Capone.
Yeah.
His lawyer was one of the most fascinating people I'd ever had to study or read about. And I was like, if one can think this way to protect somebody, that's something I want to do. And here I am. And I've been a lawyer ever since.
Have you lived those moments as a lawyer?
Yes, actually, I have. I found myself in criminal law.
Yeah.
I started my law career. I did my articles with legal aid. And you start with criminal law when you're in legal aid. There's nothing else you're going to do. There's very minimal civil work. So you start understanding criminal law and the criminal mind a lot more quicker and a lot more easier. And defending criminals and the criminal acts become a lot easier. I'm so sorry. It's so noisy here.
Yeah, no, don't worry. Yeah.
So with that, you start understanding, there's a concept, lawyers lie and protect people and all of that. And what you don't know is that criminal law is very technical. And then there's a lot of gray area to play with. And you start understanding that you, as a criminal defense attorney, your job is never to defend your client, never. Your job is to poke holes in the state's story. Because if the state doesn't have their story right, I am not mandated to make their job easier. That's what started fascinating me about criminal law and the high standard of, beyond reasonable doubt. And so that for me started showing me the aspects that we don't know about humanity, the aspects that we don't know about law, and how to merge those two for it to make sense for you to be able to assist people.
Yeah. I often wonder how difficult it is to say whatever else after the judgment was in favor of your opponent. What do you then, how do you manage that situation where sometimes you even see clients quite disappointed and looking at the lawyers to say, is this real? And I'm told of horrible stories as well, where clients would even threaten lawyers, to say, I've paid you a lot of money. You said you're going to fight this. Now, what is this?
I think also the fortunate part of starting with legal aid, you don't start in a position whereby clients start paying you. You are basically a free attorney, so they do have an expectation, but they don't have that kind of overbearingness to say that because I paid you, I expect. But also a lot of things that happen. A lot of my colleagues, what they do is that when they take on the case, they say, I am going to win it. You can never guarantee a win. You need to wait and see what the facts of the case are. And then vis-a-vis what your client is going to give you, looking at the facts. And this also applies in the civil case. And the one thing that we need to accept as a general thing, I always tell my junior associates and my CAs in my firm, that you need to accept that clients lie. No one is going to give you the full truth. The truth always comes out in papers. People tell you what favors them when they come to you as a client. So don't take it as the full truth. You wait for the truth to come out in papers and then hear what the reply is. 90% of the time, there's going to be a change in your client's story. That 10% is very rare, but it does happen, wherein your client actually has told you everything. And then when the papers come, it basically corroborates what your client has said and gives you a strong case. So when your client starts complaining at the end of the case, it means you as the attorney would not have been telling them the truth throughout, to say you have a weak case here, there, and everywhere. And then if we don't plug this hole and that hole, we're going to have problems. And then they expect a great outcome despite what you've been telling them, then that's on them. There's nothing you can do. But if you were coming clean and telling them that, listen, we don't have a good case, and the instruction is proceed anyway, then there's a problem there, because it means that you're dealing with somebody who, no matter what the outcome was going to be, it was going to be a problem.
How do you then transition to, establishing your own law firm?
Sheesh. So it's something that I've wanted for a very long time. I do remember that as a kid that I envisioned myself as somebody who owns a law firm. I just didn't know how to do it. And then got married as a candidate attorney. And about 5 years or so into the marriage, sat my husband down and said, listen, this thing of being employed is not working out for me. And we are working for petrol, because I lived in Cosmo City at the time. And my job was in Niger. That's 86 kilometers just to get there and coming back. So it's about 100 and something kilometers every single day just to get to work. And then when the salary comes in, and the petrol, and it wasn't making sense. And it had only been 3 years. I had gone back to legal aid by that time, because I'd left it, went to the private sphere, didn't like it, and went back to litigation. And then I'm like, no, it's not working out, and I don't know how I am going to do it, but I think it's time for us for me to leave employment. At the time, about 2.5 going on 3 years, being back with legal aid. So there's no pension fund, there's no savings, there's no provident fund, there's nothing. And then he says to me, no, draw me up a plan, what you have in your head, and put it on a piece of paper, and then let's see. So I did that. So lucky for me, by then, I think it was about a year, 8 months or a year, with me doing radio interviews on Power FM, actually.
Wonderful.
With Iman Rapeti at the time. So I had like a legal slot there, even under the umbrella of, even though legal aid didn't want me to say I worked for legal aid, but it was kind of known that I was in the legal fraternity. So I used that as part of, I will use it as marketing and continue in that aspect. So when I eventually did resign, and my husband like, okay, I see where your planning is, where you're going. Give me a month to pay off the smaller car that we had, and then we will see what we're going to do. I resigned, and after a month of us talking. And then on the 3rd of June 2019 was my first day being independent in Dubazana Attorneys, and I'm sitting the benches at Court Randburg, and I'm watching my colleagues that I'd seen when I was in employment going to court, and I'm sitting there, no client, no nothing. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what did I do? And I also said to myself, but I can't be these attorneys that sit on the benches of court either. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
So, I started talking to other colleagues and seeing what they can do for me. And then, boom, out of nowhere, I get an inbox on, it was Twitter then, now it's X, from a producer on ENCA, Bongani Thongwani, I think, or Mahlang, one of the two. And then he asked me for an interview on ENCA on Braden's show because he heard me on Power FM. Yeah. And that catapulted everything because now my voice and my face were now out there.
Yeah.
So you start your own law firm. Do you remember the first day you walked into your office? And I'm asking you this question on the basis that young people who are at university who are studying law can understand the emotions that you have to go through or the challenges that you have to go through for you to start your law firm. So I'm posing this question on that particular basis. So it's day one, you are there. What is the challenge? Is it paying salaries? Is to get a certain number of clients? Is getting particular cases that you're comfortable with? Just take us through all of that.
Oh, okay. So I didn't have an office. I spoke to one of the senior attorneys that I used to like admire when I was a CA. And I told him that, listen, I want to open a business, a firm, and I don't know what to do. And then he said to me, for the first 6 months, once you resign, I will house you in my office. Wonderful. And you will have a place to go and work. So at least for 6 months, you won't pay rent. I won't guarantee that I will be able to provide you with clients, but at least once or twice, I will give you a client. So that was the first thing. I didn't have an office. I didn't have furniture. I relied on people that cared enough to say, listen, I see where you're going and I'm willing to assist you. Yeah. So then I went to court, like I said, and I sat down and I talked to the other attorneys that I've known for quite some time. And then one or two would give me a case to say, I don't want to do this, because most people don't like doing trials. I enjoy doing trials. So they would give me a matter that's now ready for trial, so like you can run with it and whatnot. But those clients don't have money. So they pay like $1,000 or less sometimes. But you need clientele and you need word of mouth to get out of there. Yeah. And then so you take I took whatever came my way. If somebody was like, I am occupied, please go and assist me with a bail application in court number 4. I'll give you like 1.5. Then you go and you take it. Because what else are you going to do? Yeah. And then you're going to talk to your other colleagues. I was a legal aid practitioner. You talk to prosecutors in the different courts that you've been in. You talk to attorneys that you know who've been practicing in other areas of law, like civil and family law. And then you start saying, can you give me pointers, teach me what I'm supposed to do? What do I need to do? All of those things. So all of that information I accumulated and got within those first 6 months. And then the 6 months ended, and my Ndatima Bunda, who was housing me, said, listen, now that the 6 months have passed, we need to talk about rent and by then my TV appearances were now becoming more frequent. I see. So I think the assumption was that there's money that comes with that, which is never the case.
I see. I see. Yeah.
So because on TV, therefore I'm getting paid for appearing on TV, which was not the case. So the rent that was being asked of me is not something I could afford. So Kibekia to a smaller these Regis business centers. So I paid like 1 point something for rent, and then I had like a smaller cubicle this size that fit me in a chair and a laptop.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
exactly. And then that was my life for another year and 6 months. But because of the persistence, discipline is very hard when you're alone in this, because you are the attorney, You are the accountant, you are the receptionist, you are the driver, you are the sheriff person. You go and file things at the sheriff. You are everything in one. It gets really overwhelming, and the money doesn't come as quick to deal with all of these things. I cannot tell you the number of times I quit in my heart, in my head, and out loud to say, I can't do this anymore.
It's too
But
much.
that's what you deal with when you're opening a firm. It doesn't come easy. It really doesn't.
So when do you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I've turned the corner now, things are looking up? At what point do you get to that level?
I got to that point after COVID because my business, I opened it 6 months before COVID lockdown happened. So really, I did not have any clientele. I did not have anything. And I wasn't sure if we were going to make it. I'm going to make it. And I had already started applying for work because I'm like, get COVID. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And then when we got to level 3, by then I had so many clients and I didn't understand how, but I was grateful. And this is now, we're looking at 4 years, 3 years or so later. And then my husband is like, you are so overwhelmed. You come home tired. You are always tired. You need help. So I am going to resign from my work so that I can come into the business and help you. I've never been so scared because I'm like, at least we had a steady income from one person. So now that if he's draining me, what are we going to do if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Joined me, and then he started taking over the accounts and running to the sheriff and running to file things at court while I stayed and deal with the reception calls and drafting for legal documents and all of that.
Yeah.
And the moment I realized that things are turning around is when we sat down and said, we are overwhelmed and we need somebody that needs to come and assist us with admin.
Yeah.
That was like, boom. Oh, what just happened? And that was, we're on 7 years. So that was 2 years ago. No, I'm lying. Kefi joined us 4 years ago. So when we hired Kefi 4 years ago, that's when it was like, okay, things have changed.
So I lived in a small town in Polokwane for 13 years. Every time you drive through main routes. So you've got 2 main routes in Polokwane. One that goes that way and the one that goes the other way, right?
Yeah.
And I always used to ask myself, why is it that there are so many law firms? Kotani and Associates, Linda and Associates, Nthabiseng Attorneys. And I wonder, isn't this too much? And can we say there is enough, or we have more than enough law firms in the country? It looks like there are way too many.
Yes, there are way too many. I'm not going to lie to you. The fraternity is oversaturated.
Yeah.
But even with that, that's one of the things that were actually making me very scared and skeptical, especially when I was realizing that, oh my goodness, what I think I want to do, everybody's doing it. So what's going to make me stand out? And when knitting, what makes you stand out is your work ethic.
I see.
We can literally be neighbors in the complex, the building complex or office complex I'm at now. There's us and 3 other law firms in that space, but we don't run out of business.
Okay.
And what I always bring it down to is your work ethic, because you will go to Kotani and Associates and then they will handle your matter in a certain way. And then you come to Dubazana Attorneys and then we handle it in a different way. But your experience with either one gives the referral. And that's how it starts working. That's why law firms end up lasting. The ones that die quick most of the time is whereby the work is being treated. We don't treat Batuloloka Bat.
I
You don't
see.
want to hear their problems. And we are taught not to take home our clients' issues. And you can, to a certain extent, not do that. But if you don't put yourself in your client's shoes, how are you going to be able to assist them to the best of your ability to make sure that utlisa molao to the facts so that it makes it easier for them? And if you put the law into the facts and there's no answer, have the courage to tell the person that it is not going to work out. So when knitting, yes, we're oversaturated, but we get so many referrals from other attorneys who messed up cases, and then we now have to fix them. Because sometimes unka msebetsi ole kotane na associates, but you don't know that area of law, and then you mess it up. Now you take it back to Nthabiseng, who acts in that area of law, and then now fixing it becomes expensive. So that's what happens. Stick to what you know, because the pie is big enough. If you know this, stick to it, master it, and then you will see that it's going to work out for you.
It's interesting that you're saying the pie is big enough, because I don't know if it's a perception, but most people say your services as lawyers are not cheap. But you charge for everything, even for your hello, even for printing, even for whatever the case may be. And I'm looking at this economy where, we have a high unemployment rates, businesses are struggling to survive and all of that. Is the pie that big enough, though?
You know what? From the experience I've had, both as an employed attorney and an attorney who's been running their own business, the pie is big enough. It's just that the clientele that you attract is going to probably be the problem you're going to deal with. For people who want to serve the masses, such as us, I think now what puts me in a very unique position for me is that I had the privilege of working for people in legal aid, and you understand how Molao is lacking. They don't understand what Molao is. So if you're in a position to be able to teach more and understand the law, even if they don't take on your services, what they do after paying your consultation fee is refer. So that's what worked for me. But with that being said, we are also in competition with the big, is it the big five? Or is it the big six now? The big six law firms. These are attorneys, when they build and they don't care. And then we have middle law firms, which are bigger than Boro, Nassau. And then we have us here at the bottom. The pie goes to where you're at. So they're at the top. They only deal with the top guys. So you can't now go and compete and try and represent FNB or Standard Bank, or I'm talking about big institutions. When you're a small fish, you're not going to get a crumb from that pie. But if you're going to be dealing with the middle class and the lower class, the pie is huge, because you're going to be able to get people to pay for your services. It doesn't mean because we charge for every single thing that payment is due, we are not going to work. We have payment arrangements and all of that. We understand where people come from. But yes, we are a business. So if you stop now, Upatal, and your debt is now over 30,000 and you can't pay, if we continue working, we're putting you in a dire situation. So we would have to pause and let you catch up, and then we can continue work. So that has been my experience. It's not easy, because sometimes the salary you can't pay because people haven't paid their invoices. You can't pay your overheads because people haven't paid invoices. So you have to, it's a very delicate balance. And I'm very glad that my husband deals with the accounts and the books. That's his history. He worked in a bank for years. He did accounting. I don't have to deal with that, thank God. But there has to be some kind of balance that you have to find in order for your business to continue working and you being able to service your clients.
Yeah, here's something that I've always had concerns about. I mean, me doing what I do on radio, I always get approached by young lawyers, aspirant lawyers, who struggle to get to serve articles. And I always have to call people like you and everybody else that I know to say, but yet, young people from vets, very bright, they've been struggling to save articles. Why is that a problem? Why is there such a blockade? Or is it because you guys don't have time chasing clients and servicing clients. Or I just don't understand it. Please make me understand it.
It's not the time, it's the LPC. So the Legal Practice Council, year before last, I think, they made a ruling that payments have to be, for urban areas, you need to pay a candidate attorney 8,000 Rand or more. And for rural areas, it has to be 6,000 Rand or more. A lot of us who are in the lower edge or end of this law firm running business cannot afford that. So some in the past, we used, for example, okay, now I'm not a good example, I work for legal aid, but some other peers of mine who are not able to secure with the big five or with legal aid, they secure with smaller Yana firms. They'll get paid 2,500 Rand or less just so they can get the experience, get the articles, write the board exams, get admitted, and then they can see what they're going to do with their lives. That is no longer an option. And even if somebody were to say, I am willing to volunteer for that year or for that 2 years, it is against the law for me to hire you now, even if it's on a volunteer basis, because you're going to have to, that contract that you sign, we call it a PVT contract, it's between you, me, and the LPC. So if the LPC finds out that I lied and said I'm paying you, I am going to be disbarred and I cannot continue to practice. Whereas your life continues easily. So this is where we find ourselves now. This is where the problem is. And we can't hire candidate attorneys, and the law schools are churning them out in the hundreds, and they can't be placed because people can't afford them. And then the big law firms, they only hire 5 or 6 at a go, and this is a 2-year contract most of the time. So it's putting these poor guys in between a rock and a hard place. And if, for example, for me, my candidate attorney literally got admitted as an attorney of the High Court last week. I was moving his application. So he's now my first junior associate. And I have another candidate attorney. So I do not have the capacity to now get another CA to replace Meling. And then I'm going to pay that guy, pay to Meling, and pay the other CA. Where am I going to get the money from? One point. So that's where we are dealing. Well, that's where we're at when it comes to CAs.
Yeah, it's said. So what then becomes an option if you have not served your articles, but you have the law degree?
Well, you can be a legal advisor. When I said I left legal aid after I did my articles for the 2 years, I hadn't passed my board exam, so which means I had not been admitted. So I was left with two papers. So I got a job as a legal advisor in a company that's now insolvent, Constantia Insurance. So you're able to work in a legal department with your LLB and whatnot. You'll be able to secure a job there. So being a lawyer doesn't really restrict you to litigation. And I think that's where most people find themselves in that trap. I'm a lawyer, I must go to court. No, an LLB degree opens up so many gates for you. Yes, admission opens up even more, because now if you're admitted, they can put you in the compliance department, for example, or they can put you as a head of whatever in these legal fraternities in different areas. But with your LLB degree, you can be a legal advisor. You're not practicing. Your company will probably pay for you to do your RE, which is what they did for me. So your RE is a regulatory board exam for you to be competent to give legal advice. And an RE exam is like what, a 6-month course or something like that. And once you have it, you have a job, you can do what you need to do. But if the real need for you or the want is for you to be admitted as an attorney, the only thing you can keep doing is applying. Or if you're able to convince the LPC to allow you to serve your articles with a specific law firm for free or at a lower rate, then you'd be lucky. Other than that, you have nothing else to do but to wait.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just hoping that some of the law students are actually watching this particular episode. The nice thing about what we do on this platform is that it does not go away, particularly content like this. Even in the next 5-10 years, it will still be watched. That's the beauty of podcast. But I mean, what then would then be the advice to a young student who's studying law at Wits? What would you tell them? Something that you wished you knew before you got to where you are today, just as an advice.
What I wish I knew is that it does get easier, but what it needs is for you to open yourself up.
Yeah.
Because I had closed myself off. I had really thought that being an attorney is being a litigant, and that was going to be my life. And looking at where I'm at now, my job doesn't really leave doesn't live, I beg your pardon, in the courtroom. Not anymore. My voice has become, every time I open the radio, every time I watch TV, or every time I pick up the phone, somebody is sending me something about myself. And that has opened me up to other opportunities that still involve the law. So when you go into it, know what it is you had in mind when you said you wanted to be the law. Or be a lawyer. Not that you wanted to avoid mathematics, or not that you had no other option but to be a lawyer. For me, now I love what I do. I love law with such a passion that if I could find myself in a position to continue teaching and speaking on the law and the reality and the truthfulness and the practicality of the law to people, I feel like I would have done my job. I would have done what I came here to do. So know what your end goal is when you enter this business. Because if you enter it for money, you're going to be miserable, because money doesn't come for a very long time. So you need to have the discipline and the passion for it, because the motivation disappears. Shem, I'm not going to lie to you, because at some days you'll be like, this is not worth it. And the cases are driving you crazy. Your clients, you want to murder them, all of these things. But once the discipline and the passion are still there, you're able to move. So know what your end goal is when you enter into this, and know that you will get there. It gets easier.
Wonderful. What an enjoy. I've done a lot of interviews in my life, but this has been absolutely eye-opening, and I hope the young people will watch this and learn from your experience, particularly those that are following who want to follow in your footsteps. Thank you so much, Manis. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Ntate, and I wish you guys well, and I know you're going to do so well.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma.